Hello, this is Maggie, and I'm using Google Screencastify. I've never used it, so hopefully I'm okay with it. But on my screen, you can see that this is my first introductory lesson. And basically what we'll be doing is watching a video on Schoolhouse Rock talking about adjectives, what they describe, and then the students will begin their own quick write right here on different adjectives. Once they complete a 5-minute quick write, they will color coordinate so they know the different senses, because this unit is talking a lot about descriptive adjectives towards senses: see, touch, taste, hear, and feel. So once they do that on their own, teachers will do a group discussion. They will ask the students to give the words they put in the different columns, and the teacher will type them. Typing is important because we're going to be using this throughout, and then eventually we're going to print it so that students have a list that they can use and reference later on. I'm a keen believer in have a pile of stuff that the students can flip through. That's important when they're writing their rough draft, and then use in their future as well so that they can always save it, they can always reference it. So this will be the number one thing on their stack, is a list of adjectives. And then the last activity they'll be doing is teamwork, and they'll be given a noun, and they have 1 minute to give as many adjectives as they can for that noun, and the nouns are on there right here. Basically, it's a round of Jeopardy. Whoever gets the most words, descriptive words for each noun, wins a point, and then there's a bonus round, and then differentiation and motivation for learning. The next tab I'm going to is my prompts. These are my prompts. I talk a lot about prompt 1, which was what most of my activities were based on, with descriptive words about your favorite season. And then prompt 2 is organizing a story, beginning, middle, and end, about a time that went wrong and how you fixed it. These are your Common Core standards. They both are in ELA literacy in the 4th grade and in topic 3. This next one is our graphic organizers, which we'll be using throughout, and then they'll also stack that on top of their important documents so they can reference later. So after we do the introductory lesson, we're again going to be referencing favorite season with the different senses, and they'll be doing a web, and they have to put 5 adjectives in each bubble, and that way this begins their pre-write for their actual essay about their favorite season. And then this organizer is a plot chart, basic plot chart, beginning, middle, climax, falling, and then the end. Again, they can have this on their computer or on their stack of papers that they'll reference when they go to write their second essay, which is about beginning, middle, and end. And the actual prompt has a problem and a resolution, where you have a problem and you need to fix it, so it follows this plot chart correctly. The next thing is our mini lessons. These are my lesson plans, which you don't really need to see. Here is my first mini lesson about descriptive writing. First thing is I will tell a story, students will close their eyes, and I will stress how important it is to use descriptive words, and they can figure it out on their own without even reading it or seeing it or saying the word softball field. I show them the softball field, and then we talk about how each word I said goes with a different sense. And then they're going to do the same thing with their favorite food. So then they can use the internet like a dictionary or a thesaurus to find synonyms for their favorite food on this chart. And then they're going to pair with their partner. Their partners will close their eyes again and see if they can guess it. And then the last thing is share as a class, whoever had the greatest, most descriptive story about mac and cheese. My next mini lesson is about beginning, middle, and end. And here's where one of my mentor texts comes in. We will be reading Where the Wild Things Are. We read the story. We introduce basic transition words. And then later on, the teacher's retelling with the group. And then at the very end of this, you're going to take this initial retelling, which is right here, and you're going to have the story that the retelling the class created, but then you put in the transition. So instead of saying first, Max went into his room and a forest was growing, you say immediately when Max walked into his room, there was a forest, or something like that. And here's another source that I found on Teacher Pay Teachers that the students can use in that stack of important documents that they continually reference. Here is my sample essay I found when I was writing it. I made a lot of the same mistakes that I was trying to teach about, which is transitional words and adjectives. So I went back and made my additions thanks to my editing partner and Professor Trask. So hopefully this is best as it could be. I even found some mistakes when I was editing it for the revised final wiki. So here it is. And then this one are my mentor texts, which I referenced where the wild things are. And then this one is just it's not even a story. It's just a bunch of adjectives describing what's ever on the page. And then this one talks about fireflies at night. So it talks about the dark night, and it's very descriptive. It'd be something I would read just to get your feet wet on the very first day of this unit. Next is an activity for my formative assessment. I'd read them a story, and they'd have to write the words they hear and then draw a picture of what they see. Fourth graders don't really like to draw, but I think it's a great opportunity to see what they see from a short story, because you never know, they might be totally getting something else, and then you can share that with the class. These are my different rubrics. They're about the same, except this one obviously talks about creativity with adjectives, and this one talks about having your beginning, middle, and end. So I used a rubric maker, which is super beneficial. I'm definitely going to use that in my future, and if you don't, you definitely should. And then here's my self-assessment checklist. What's different between my self-assessment and peer is at the bottom, like Professor Trask said, you have more like open-ended thinking. What would you do differently about your narrative? What did you enjoy? And then these are the same kind of things, questions. Here's my peer, where they kind of check for grammar, make sure they have all the parts of the rubric on here. So for the first one, they talk about describe, see, smell, taste. And then down here, it has the beginning, the middle, the end, and a hook. Lastly, here are my resources. I referenced my mentor text. I also used the Common Core standards. I found a couple of cool units that I took pieces from, like the Jeopardy game I got from this Amanda Smith teaching creative narratives, and then just the unit of study personal narratives, descriptive writing. The descriptive writing worksheet was the graphic organizer. So thanks to them, I have great curriculums. One of them was a blog, and it was super beneficial, so check it out if you have the time. All right, thanks for listening, and this was my narrative unit for my final wiki for Education 310. If I can get it to stop.